Hello and welcome to Geekverse Sidequest. This is our weekly video game show here at Geekverse. I'm your host, Dylan Muss, and I have with me the ruler of the world, Travis Snell. I'm curious what that name is in reference to, but we'll find out later. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
Good. I don't think we will find out later unless we're going to talk about the passing of the great wrestler Sid Vicious, Sid
Okay.
Justice, aka
Was not in
Psycho
my
Sid.
notes, but we
No,
could.
no, he passed away. He was one of my favorites. He was like, he was in the '90s, but he's like his name was Psycho Sid, but he's very cartoony. But he was a 6'9" guy, very
Wow.
huge and blonde, just looking like a stud. But yeah, no, he passed away today, unfortunately, because of cancer. So just a shout out to
Wow.
him. But yeah, he was a very over the top. He always had these eyes and stuff, and they found a way to use the Psycho. Like I don't think you've seen Psycho, but you know the music where it's like that, like that. They
Right.
found a way to use like a rip off of it, so it would sound like that before he came to the ring. So, but he called
Mm.
himself the ruler of the world as well. So
Gotcha. Because
yeah,
I didn't know if that was a reference to Civilization 7, which we're going to be talking about, but I'm like, that's not a Travis thing. So
no,
maybe he loved this trailer, but which
no,
would excite me. But no, good to have that context.
yeah,
Today's episode is going to be, I was going to say short and sweet. I don't think that's necessarily the case,
no.
but in terms of topics, it's pretty condensed. We're just going to be talking about the games we've been playing and then breaking down Gamescom. Now, Gamescom was more than just like Keeley's opening night live. There was a lot of other things, so we're bringing in just anything over the last few days that was interesting to us, trailers wise or information wise. So it should be a fun episode. I think the only thing I'll shout out here at the beginning is that next week's episode is going to be all about Star Wars Outlaws. Me, Travis, and
Right,
Taylor
yeah.
are going to be picking that up, and I don't know how much time I'll have to play over the weekend, but I'll try and do as much as I can.
Early
And
impressions,
yeah, exactly. And then we'll probably talk about it more in the weeks afterwards. But if anyone else is playing, has any questions or impressions, and you want them included in the episode, send them my way, whether it's YouTube comment, in the Discord, on the Patreon, wherever it is. I'll make a post on Patreon as well for that one. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure a lot of people will be playing it. But yeah, that's next week's episode. We'll talk about some other plug type things later. But let's just get right into it. Travis, what have you been playing lately?
Well, because of that reason, I haven't been taking on anything that I want to invest a lot of time to. So we
Smart.
talked about this a little bit on the 9 year, but the last time I was on SideQuest, talked about Elden Ring. I gave up on Elden Ring because I found, as I said before, I was in a place where most of the stuff I think I had to do to really progress was some bigger bosses. And I think I just was not in the headspace to, because right now, usually I try to do 2 nights of screenwriting and 1 night of video games. And if things are light or things aren't, busy, then I do a second night, but sometimes just one. I think I just was not in the headspace for dedicating, because you're right, where like that's what you got to do. You got to go in there, fight this guy, gal, maybe 5 to 6 hours, then finally you finish that, right? Whereas like, I just don't know if I want to do that right now. I had to be in the right, especially when it's just like you sometimes only get the one day to play. It's like I want to be doing something
Yeah.
that's like progressing or just kind of having a little fun and doing something a little bit different. So I will return to it. My goal in 2025 is to fully beat that and get to the DLC, but it's gonna be tough because there's lots of good games. So I gotta look at the calendar when we do our video game preview and see, okay, what's a good slot. So I just didn't feel the urge to do that. Even though what I was playing, I was still having a good time. Still love that game. I'd still put in the top 10, everything like that. So I had two things I've been kind of dipping my toes into. This was just for like a couple nights. I started playing some Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't know why, if it was like an anniversary or something. I just felt like my Twitter algorithm was just showing me lots of Red Dead stuff and lots of stuff where it's like, man, look how great this game is. And it was just, Arthur Morgan riding his horse through a storm. I was like, oh, that was yeah, that's some good stuff there. And that's a game where I've done everything. So I went in there because the good thing about that game is you'll still be riding around. And like today, or like last week, I rode around. This guy wanted to challenge me in a horse race. So even when you've done everything, there's like odd that there's still like a bounty, or there's still like some treasure stuff I haven't found. I've just been in a Western mood, so it was good to go back in there. But I did find that I wasn't being fully fulfilled because I still needed more. Like I still like the way I think I really would have wanted to play it is starting the game over, and I didn't want to do that. So I just kind of did that for I think about 2 playthroughs. I just got on the horse, rode through, and looked for things. Was doing a bit more outlaw stuff and everything. So, and I didn't want to do the online. I only played a little bit with the online. I'm kind of sad it didn't blow up the same way as GTA, because I was looking really forward to that, and I feel like it's there, but it's not have a huge community. So I did that, and then obviously we're going to talk about it a little bit later. This was just kind of coincidental because I kind of forgot the DLC's coming out in a month or so. But then I did Starfield, and that, if you listen to our Alien review, that's the same way. Isolation still never played, but the same thing. I didn't want to start a new game with Outlaws just around the corner. So I was like, okay, what could scratch that itch that I kind of already in the roundhouse? And Starfield is a game where I've done a lot, but there's still tons I haven't. Like right now, what I'm working on, I don't know if you remember in the review we talked about how you did all like those. They're like not the bounties, but they're like the rangers or whatever they are.
Yes, the ranger quest line. Yep.
Yeah, where with mine, remember when I played the first time, it just bugged out and I didn't get to do any of that. So that's where there's
So there's some plus now you can go back to it.
Yes, that's what I've been doing. I haven't dipped my toes because I had to go make a Bethesda account because I see that community creations are there and I want to add a couple of Star Wars mods and stuff like that. But I did not feel I think I busted open at like 11 p.m. I'm not going to make an account right now. I just want to play.
Did you? So I guess you hadn't browsed it yet because I'm curious what kind of free stuff there is on that.
So I don't know what there is for free already. When I'm about to get in, it's like you get this amount of credit, and then after that, I don't know.
So they give you a couple things to get.
They
get
do.
You in the door.
But my worry of already giving me credit is them kind of saying like, hey, like you get a couple things, but right away it's going to be buying and stuff, which is like. I get it though, I guess, because some people sell their mods, right? So I understand it's people's hard work. So if there's something I really like, I would maybe get into it. But I'm still like I love that game because that more than Red Dead was just, it felt easier to pick up again. It just, I don't know why, just controls wise, everything. It just, not map wise, everything we've talked about, still same issue. They've updated some other things.
Well,
but
they have like world maps now, or like better maps. I heard as an update.
Sure, like they do, but like it's still not like I remember. Yeah, I remember
sure
leaving
a mod that does it 12 times better.
Right. Yes, that's what I'm going to be downloading those mobs is for those ones because like there's still a time where I left the plan. I'm like, oh, how do I get back there? And there's so many menus and screens and everything like that. But no, it's still like I was enjoying my time with it. It's a game that obviously we've got Outlaws. I think there's a couple more games like obviously Indy's coming out in December. But I think that's a game I still want to put more time into because it's still a big world and there's still lots of things I hadn't done, and especially doing the New Game Plus playthrough. So no, I still that completely scratched the itch for me of like I want to be in space fighting aliens, and it worked. It wasn't like, oh yeah, maybe I won't return back to this game. It did the opposite of, like I said, we got that DLC, but did the opposite of, oh, I actually want to go back to this more. Because I feel like there's some games where you do that and you like return to it 6 months later and you're like, you know what, I'm actually good where I left it. This was a good playthrough. But Starfield, I had the opposite. Funny enough, I did get to try out, they put that vehicle in there.
Oh, that's already in the game.
Yeah, it's already in the game. Awful. Just awful. Just like the spaceship. It's not like a right trigger, left trigger. Like how you control it is the stick. So like a move forward,
like Halo
backwards.
Style? Okay.
Yeah, and I obviously not a big Halo guy, so I wouldn't have known that. And just even like it took me, I don't know, my third or fourth driving just to figure out how to get out of the car. Like sometimes I was doing it accidentally. It's just not clear, or maybe I didn't read, but still,
that makes a lot of sense. I remember in our review having that discussion about like I didn't know that you could get out of your ship in space and just walk around. And then someone, I think in the comments or something, mentioned that. I was like, oh, wow, I can't believe I didn't know how to do that. But it's not easy to get out of your driver's seat in Starfield, I guess, is just a resounding theme.
I think I figured it out now. I think it's holding B, but even a few times I did that, there was like a long delay, and I didn't.
When you have to hold the button, that's the most unintuitive.
I know. Yeah. And to get in, it's just a button press. So it's just you press A, and like that's a weird thing though. To get in is one button, to get out's another. But even then, just the actual driving of it was to the point now, because when you do New Game Plus, if people don't know, you get like a better jetpack, I'd say a better suit. It was to the point where unless you're just in a full area with no rocks, no hills, I was like, I don't know if this makes it any faster. I might be faster with like the New Game Plus jetpack. There's maybe some planets that probably are like that, but the planet I was on was like there was terrain and bump and rock, and I was like, this is a pain. I'm trying to do the awesome powers thing, like back in and out. So still not great. It's just like the spaceship where it's just like it's not fun to like fly in that game. It's not fun to drive. And that's where it's just I remember why I still really love the game, but why it was not like it didn't get those perfect scores for me, because there's little stuff like that where it's like, how did we even do this? So, but no, I had a fun time, and we'll talk about more. But I'm really excited for the DLC. So that's one, and those tend to stick with me. I was the same way with Fallout 4, where I played that and then I came back to it. Like obviously, it's not a rare thing to say. Like Bethesda have great replayability, and just like they have a good gameplay loop, and they just feel good for the most part. I feel like what you're doing with your actual character and everything. So yeah, and like I said, there's still tons of stuff I didn't explore. So I've just been mostly doing Starfield until Outlaws, which Outlaws is only a couple days away. So I might get one more Starfield session before then. But yeah, those are the two. And then I think I finally logged my first game on Backloggd. I gotta do that more because it's weird that it's like a. Is it just, can you do choose like a I'm playing thing right now, or
there is playing? Yeah.
Okay, so I got to do that.
You can set your like complete status, and you can leave that as just played if you don't want to be specific, or you can say you completed it. You can even pick like mastered if you want to say that it's a game that you fully did. There's playing, which is games you're actively playing through, and then there's backlog and wish list. And I see people use those for different things. For me, wish list is any game that's not out yet. Dump them in there. Anything that's out, even if if it's on my list, if I've played it a bit, want to get back to it, and then I dump those in the backlog bucket. So you kind of have your 4 buckets there.
I made separate lists on mine for the games I want to play. Yeah, you can also make
custom lists.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Those, yeah.
I got upcoming games I want to play and games on my, just like, I don't know if it's backlog list or whatever, but can you have multiple games on the I'm playing list right now?
Yeah.
Okay,
good.
I think
at most I've had like 8 or 9. I mean, you can probably put an infinite amount, but when I've been really in the weeds playing a bunch of different things, it gets a little hectic. But it's nice to be able to just click that button and remind yourself, like, what do I want to play tonight? I'm just going to look at my list and decide what's like the best thing.
That's good, because I was like, well, I'm playing both Red Dead and that, so I'll go update that, because I still got I wish there was like an actual app version, because I like using it on the phone, or like it's all fine on the phone, but the desktop's where it's at. But I logged my
I
first...
find too, like the phone version, it logs me out every time I revisit the site, which is annoying. But the website version doesn't do that, so I don't know why that's different.
Which is odd, because on desktop, Letterboxd is the same thing to me. No matter how many times I say remember me, I'm always logging in. It's just so frustrating. But I logged my official completed game, because last weekend we finally beat Mario, whatever. What the hell is that game that came out? Yeah, Mario Wonder with the kids, because that was like kind of do 3 levels every night. We still got like some of the secret Star World to do, so I guess it's not like 100%. But I can
back for that stuff, actually. I just did the 6 worlds, 6
we'll see, because those are the 5 difficulties, and some of those 4 with the kids can be a bit much. But that was just a very enjoyable game. Like, I think I gave that just a full 10, because like I had no complaints. Like, it's everything I wanted. It was a good starting point for them. So I'm not sure right now. I guess another thing I'm gonna add to playing list. Now we're playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance again, so we're doing that. Cool. So once we beat 3 on the Switch, good roster, especially with like Spider-Gwen and stuff for Gwen and everything. So, and then once we do that, I really don't know what's on the list next for me and the girls. Maybe it'll be something. I think that Power Rangers game, I don't think that's out yet, but remember from Summer Games Fest, I think that would probably be next on the list for us to get.
Have they played Mario Party yet?
Yes and no. They want to, because they used to play it when they were pretend in control, but now they've played games, they know the difference of it, right? But it's like, obviously we'll have to put it on easy. They really want to, but I just don't know, because for people that don't know, one of them's 7, then one of them's 5. The 3-year-old's still in the pretend mode. Ellie doesn't get to play. So I'm like, 5 and 7, I think there's some aspects of Mario Party that fit that, but then there's some that aren't, right? There's some mini games that just aren't fun.
Just to the mini game plaza and just like picked fun mini games, which I know you're a bigger fan of the board game itself.
Oh no, yeah.
And it's I'm just wondering with Jamboree, that's coming in October, but I know you're on the fence with that one, but that could be a fun one. A little bit different than like a story-based game, but...
Yeah, and I'll probably start them with because we still have Superstars, and we still have, I don't know what which one was, whether it was 9 or 10, like the actual numbered one. Like I have that
Super
one.
Mario Party on this.
Right, okay, it's Super Mario Party, and then there was, and that one's Super Mario Party Superstars, right? Is that what it is?
Just Mario Party Superstars. For some reason, that one had the super. And then this
the
is
best
Mario
of his
Party Jamboree, I think.
Yeah, but no, wasn't there? There was still one more before that too on the Switch. There's still another one. Yeah, there's still another one, because we owned that. We bought them really close together, because I think me and Emily we were craving some Mario Party, and then we bought that, and then they announced Superstars, and I was like, okay, so that's where
I know there's a couple on like Nintendo Switch Online, but.
So I think there is one more, but yeah, I think I probably will do the mini games things with them, but I think the kids are like me, because they've seen it and they like Monopoly and things like that. They might be like, oh, where's the board game? So we'll see, but they've been wanting to do Mario Party, so maybe we'll do a couple runs easy. So
love it. I wanted to. I mean, since we were talking about Starfield, might as well continue that discussion now. I'm surprised to hear. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised to hear about the vehicle, just because that does not feel like a very Bethesda thing to nail. Like the horses in Elder Scrolls have always been janky. They've never had a drivable vehicle in a Fallout, so I was a bit skeptical. And I, saw that was a thing coming to the game, but I didn't actually watch the video for it until a couple days later. And then when I watched the video, I was like, "This looks amazing! Like it's the thing's bouncing around. It feels like it's got like big springs on it. You can
Got a lot of boost.
grind and
That's
drift
good.
and go up on these mountains." But
Yeah.
it makes sense that their YouTube video trailer is gonna be the best of it and not show you like the janky moments when you're getting stuck on a rock or it's just not being able to traverse the terrain, which makes sense given that the terrain is randomly generated to an extent and it's not like they can hand place all this stuff. So that is understandable, but too bad to hear. I'm still excited for it. I think maybe the good use case for it is when you exit a dungeon and you're just super over encumbered or something. And
Yes.
so rather than having to dump some stuff, you can just drive it. How does that work? Can you like a horse in like any other game like Ghost of Tsushima? Like, can you call it to you?
Every time you get out of your ship, it starts there. And
Yeah.
to my knowledge, anytime I went into like a science center, a dungeon, it was just exactly where I parked it. I didn't find myself being like, "Oh,
But
where is it?"
You don't remember a button that would like call it to you, so it would come. Meet
No,
you
because
up?
anytime you are going where the vehicle is, it spawns right with you. Like when you got to get out of the ship. So I guess I think there's no button. So let's say theoretically, if you got out of your ship, walked 1,000 miles and wanted it, I don't think you can get it. But you could just fast travel right back to your ship, grab it, and then go.
If you're not
so
over-encumbered, right?
yeah. So that I don't think there is, as far as I remember, a car whistle come get me thing.
And what's up with the jetpack on it that is shown off in the trailer? Like it's shown off right in the end of the trailer that he like falls into a canyon and then blasts out again.
It has. I've never fallen to a canyon, but you have like a boost, just like a regular like Mario Party mushroom one, and then you have like a thing. And I
Yeah,
think
okay.
there's one maybe for like some turning. I just used like the Batmobile, push forward one, but there is a to get. Oh no, I did use the jetpack once to get over a wall, and it had a good enough gas to feel like a couple hits and went over. So I think it's like your jetpack. If you time it enough right, you could maybe not hit the ground. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I've always wanted them to add like a motorcycle or something into Fallout, so I'm glad that they're experimenting with it. And hopefully, it's just once again they're so iterative that hopefully by the time the next Fallout comes out and they do decide to add a vehicle, they can make it even better because of their shortcomings here. I want to run this by you. So here's the thing: the DLC is coming out in a month-ish.
Yeah.
When I ended Starfield, so I spent a ton of time on the one character, did almost everything, and then I rolled into New Game Plus, changed my character a little bit like visually, and then I did like one quest line, like the Ryujin quest line, and then I rolled New Game Plus again because I wanted to see what that would look like, and then I really just went to Constellation just to see what random thing I had. And then I think I just stopped right there. So like that third character, the most current one, I have I have nothing on that character, I guess. Like no upgrades. Well, I have all the upgrades, but I don't have. I haven't got a ship.
Skill tree.
I probably don't have that many weapons. I don't think.
Well,
I have
you'll
any
always get a ship, I think,
companions.
right? Because don't you always get like the
You have
god
you have
tier
the
ship?
default ship, I
Yeah.
guess. But yeah, you don't have. I don't have any really weapons. I don't have any companions with
Yeah.
me. I don't have any bases set up on any planets. I know I left save points at all my characters. Do you think I should reload to one of those previous characters, or should I just call this DLC run like, I don't know, on my third character, my third New Game Plus? I can make that my kind of DLC playthrough. I've really been, in the back of my head for the last couple of weeks, you're really running like, I don't know, should I reload to get my big ship with all my
I don't
crewmates?
think so. I think go with the new person because I also think that if you're jumping right in for the DLC, because that's the only not problem but catch up I had to do is like, which guns do I like again? Like, what is best for this? Everything where, at least if you're kind of starting fresh, it's like, oh, I like this guy. It's not like you're having to retrain. Okay, here are these 8 guns on my loadout, and now I have these new ones. Is it better? Because I think for the most part, the good thing is well, actually, I'm not sure probably because you won't have much money wise. So that's money wise
that's
is
the
tougher
thing,
to me
yeah.
than the guns. But maybe what you should just do is, like a couple days before the DLC, play that new character, just do a couple missions, and I'm sure you'll like have enough. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, there's always that one heist one I'd have to look up and see that could get you a lot of money. But I would just go the new route and just use
Yeah.
that character because my character is not as like new as yours, but I still didn't do that much with the new plus one. Like I said, I did do a heist mission where I got a bunch of money, so now I'm kind of rolling in it. But I would do that because I imagine you're gonna get some cool new guns and gadgets and stuff. So
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm thinking about, do I just want to go back to my first original playthrough character, just because I had like a really big ship and I had like multiple houses. Like I did everything on that character. Was the second character I really just did the one quest line I hadn't done yet. But then the main thing too is that in that playthrough, my main companion was Andreja, who is like the Varun person. And since this DLC is like going to the Varun homeworld, I just feel
that's
like
fair.
some of the dialogue options and things could be interesting as well. So I don't know. I'm really racking my brain what I'm going to do there. I'll probably decide last minute. But yeah, I don't know. What did you think of this new trailer? I guess really the new info we got here is that the DLC is coming out September 30th. It's going to be all set on one planet. There's going to be some way that we get teleported there. But then like all the content for it, all the dungeons and story and la-di-da is all set on one planet. So that's very different from the rest of the quest structure of the rest of Starfield. And it seems like because of that, it's going to be a lot more, I guess, like hand painted is the best way to put it, rather than using a lot of this random generation that the rest of the game uses. So I'm into that. I like that idea. I just feel like maybe it'll be kind of short and sweet. Like I feel like it could be over pretty quick. They made it seem like, oh, there's a lot of hidden things to go do and whatnot. But I'm excited for it. But I don't know where you at with it.
It's probably hidden things like each planet, right? Where there's a cave here, there's a science center here, there's this artifact you can collect and everything. But
I hope it's a bit more bespoke than these kind of random spots that you see over
yeah,
and over again.
it'd be nice. But no, I think I prefer it that way. I don't need them to say, and we're adding 10 more planets because there's still a bunch of planets I've never been to. Because there's
I would
things
rather
that are
them make retroactively make some other planets more interesting than
yes,
adding
yeah.
ones.
So no, I'm a fan of that. I think it could be more memorable because you could just go to this one location, and they did describe it apparently, and some other people that got their hands on it. It's a bit more on the horror side and thriller side, which again fit right up my alley because I've been after Alien Romulus wanting some space horror stuff. So, and I think the game does that. You know, it's not a horror game, but there are some missions that have that vibe, and I think they did that quite well when they did that. So, no, I'm a fan. Pretty much everything they said, I'm a fan of. Even if it's short and sweet, if it's contained on one planet, I think I much prefer that because even then, if it was all spread out between different planets, you're gonna have travel time. You're gonna have this. You're gonna have to open up the map. If this is just simply, hey, you go on this planet, and to me, I'm just looking at it as hopefully kind of more juicier side quests, and that's all I need, right? That's all I need is just one good mission because there's multiple missions from this game that might even be shorter than the one we're gonna play, but are still memorable, right? So, I think that I don't really have any cons. I'm looking very forward to this one. Like I said, I'm excited that I've put the feet back in the water, but I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping it's not just what we said where okay maybe it's a plan of this and that, but still even then my expectations are I think set just right. I'm not expecting also to like blow me away or anything. So
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad that you've been jumping back into it and excited to dive into that next month. I guess 1 month away pretty much from that DLC. For me on the games I've been playing, honestly the main thing I've still been playing for the last couple weeks here is Mad Max. It's really just been like the perfect mood thing for me. I feel like after I finished Alien Isolation and like just kind of I like my Game Pass subscription, as I mentioned, like that is now subsided, so I don't have access to all these things anymore. And then with Star Wars Outlaws on the near horizon, I was like, I don't know, what do I want to do? And like Mad Max has just been like the perfect vibe for that. So I'm like not 100%, but like I'm almost cleared like the first main area there, like Jeet's stronghold, and that it's like 3 or 4 territories that are all kind of connected there. I've really just been going through. I've been getting like all the upgrades for that base, which are just like the most simple fetch quests of all times. But they do take you to like different base missions and other interesting locations sometimes, along with just random like side of the road things too. So that's been fun, like fully maxing that out. The only thing I need to do, I think, is just like the stockpile upgrades, which just require you to put in a shit ton of like gold or credits, whatever the currency is. So those ones I'll get soon enough. But it's funny how many ways we talked about that in our episode that we talked about that game a lot, is just like how many different currencies and ways to upgrade and all this stuff. Like I got a couple now where I have this one upgrade that just gives me currency like whenever like in between when I'm not playing the game. So whenever I log back in, I just get like dumped like
I
a
forgot
couple
about
hundred
that.
credits or
That's
something like
cool.
that. And I'm not sure how that works with like because this game came out years ago, way before Xbox had quick resume, and I'm not sure like when it reads when the game is off. Because I feel like I don't really get these credits at like consistent times when I log back in. It's like sometimes it'll be just 10 minutes after I log in. I've been playing for a bit. I just get dumped all these credits. Sometimes it's right away. Sometimes it's not at all. So I don't know what's going on there. But I also got like the cleanup crew upgrade. So once I'm in Stronghold, is like anytime I destroy a car, I just get all those credits right away. I don't have to get out of my car and go collect them and stuff. So
Nice.
I've really just been going in that first main area because now that I'm way more powerful and I've lowered the threat level so the enemies are weaker there too. I'm just like leveling up my character a bunch, and it is the perfect turn off the brain and just cruise around the wasteland, go do some simple missions. But it's just a really freaking fun game, and I like the customization of it. So yeah, that's been like the main thing I've been playing. So that's a good
Nice.
time. I'm guessing for that one, you kind of like you got your fix after Furiosa, and you're like
Yeah.
good for the while again.
Well, I think for me, because I think I could have
'Cause I
maybe
feel like
still.
Red Dead's actually a similar sort of energy, maybe. And now that you're jumping into
Yes.
that one, you kind of went that
I think for me, what was the bummer is just that I didn't have my full save. So for me, who's somebody that
fair
had
enough.
done that already, I was looking for to get back. And then even if there's I'm sure there could have been some strongholds or some stuff that I didn't completely do. Be like, oh, I can go finish that off. But the starting all over was like, do I want to? Do I want to do this? But no, I think I got my fit. I'll probably be playing it again come January, February when we rewatch Golden Geek stuff, and I'll watch that. But I'm happy now I got loaded up on the PS5 for any time I want it. So
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I mean, speaking of Starfield and the vehicle there, this game just has such fun car physics,
yeah.
and especially once you're getting more upgrades and more boosts and all this, it's just a great time cruising around. So that's been a lot of fun. And then other than that, I've just been playing a bunch of these Game Jam games. So Travis, did you listen to last week's Sidequest?
No, I haven't. I have a whole backlog. I was talking about this with you today, like Last Stand and everything. I got my wrestling podcast because usually I listen to some podcasts, but right now I've been trying to finish Lord of the Rings season 1 before Thursday, like Rings of Power. So that's been taking up my time on my work days. So
yeah, no problem. I was just wondering how much context I should give you here. But last week on Sidequest, I talked about with Taylor how I was participating in a game jam last weekend. So I made a short and sweet game, which was cool. And then for the last week, I've been going in and playing all the other games that people submitted to this game jam, because there's like a rating system that they were doing. So I was trying to, play a bunch of people's game, give them feedback, or just tell them how cool their game was, that kind of thing. And so I just wanted to show a few highlights. So for all of these on itch.io, you can go on, search them up, and just play them for free. They're all just free little games. I played like 50 different games. A lot of them, most of them are like, you beat it in like 2 minutes, or you kind of get the idea within 2 minutes. A couple of them maybe take like 10 to 15 at most. So it was kind of, it was fun to just jump in and see a bunch of weird, freakish games. But the theme of the jam was built to scale. So it's supposed to be about things that are really big or really small, or things that are changing size, or a lot of people just like even took those individual words like built to scale and used the built and just made it a game about building things, or games about scaling things like just climbing mountains and whatnot. So a few of the highlights were this one game called Skeleton. So you play this cute little skeleton character, and it's funny. It starts out very simple. You're this little guy in this kind of empty sort of underground dungeon. It's a 2D side-scrolling sort of thing. You have this gun, but the gun doesn't really do anything. So I'm cruising around for a minute. I'm like, what's going on here? Is this because some of these games are just broken and unfinished too? So I'm like, is there just no game here? Like, am I just walking around? But then eventually I got further enough that I got hit this like crystal, and when you hit this crystal, then your gun is like it's like twice the size. Now I have this huge like rifle kind of thing, and so one, the gun's like more powerful, can break through certain boxes, but also now my character is like twice as big, so there's certain passageways that I had used to get there that now I can't go through. So you kind of have to maneuver around a different way, and it's kind of like just that cycle over and over again where you're cruising around for a while, you eventually find this crystal, your character gets like a way bigger gun, and now your character model is so huge that it's like really strugglesome to get through the tight cave corridors. So it's just a really, really cool idea, really well executed. The music too, it's like really jazzy. Like they recorded full music for this, and it like slowly ramps up as your character is getting bigger and stronger. So it starts out like just a couple bass notes and like maybe a little guitar or something, and then by the end it's like this huge like solos and like popping off. It's just it's insanely impressive what some people made, given that it was like a 4-day time limit to make these games from start to scratch. So that one was really good. This other one called Pixel Break I really enjoyed because it kind of used a similar idea to what I had of like scaling the game window, but they use this in more of like a puzzly sort of way. And there's certain enemies that when they're like off screen, they don't move towards you. And so it's kind of like you're doing a lot of like mazes and puzzles and just trying to like keep enemies out of view, but then at just the right times putting them in view so you can like shoot them all with this like bullet. It's really, really cool, really fun. That one was called Pixel Break. Played this really nice, peaceful one called Trellis, which is very simple. You're just playing like a vine, and you're just climbing through these trellises, climbing through these vents on the side of this house. But it was like actually a really fun little physics kind of platformer game. So that was really cool, really peaceful music, just a very calming time. I played someone made this full-on 3D first-person horror game called This House Eats People. And it was like really impressive. It's like insane that they could make this level of detail in this short amount of time. But it's a simple thing where you just going up to a house, you got to take mysterious pictures, a couple good jump scares in there. So that one was really nice. There's a couple other ones, like a lot of like 2D platformers, because that's just a simple formula for a game. You can take a lot of different ways. One was really cool called Minimized, where you're kind of stretching and squishing the screen, and that like stretches your character. So you start out as like a regular little Mario looking guy, but then you can like stretch the screen horizontally, and then you're like super wide, which will help you like jump across larger gaps because you're just such a big character. So and then they do like there's vertical puzzles like that too. You got to squish yourself really small to fit in small areas. Just really, really creative. And then I think the last one I'll shout out is this game called Dewin Mar. After playing it, I have no idea why it's called that. It's spelled DEWIN space MAWR rather. And this is another more puzzle platformer one where once again you're jumping into crystals and it's changing your size, but rather than just like going up constantly, you have usually each screen has like 2 or 3 different crystals you're jumping in. One will make you smaller, one will make you bigger. The smaller you are, the more you can fit through tight corridors and maybe get keys. Then the bigger you are, the higher you can jump. And so it's kind of all these like platforming puzzles based around that. And it was like really so well polished, and it was so much longer than I was expecting. I was just so surprised how much content some people were able to pack into these games in the short period of time. So if anyone wants to check these games out, once again, you search the name or go on our Discord in the video game channel. You can ask me for a link, and I can send you to them as well. And I'll probably play a bunch more because the ratings are going to be closed pretty soon, and that's when the top games will be shown off. So I'll probably go check out like the top rated ones that other people played that really enjoyed. So it was a really fun time going through and checking all these people's games, and everyone was given the same prompt, and everyone made like completely different, interesting, cool things.
That's
so
fun.
It was a really, really good time. So there you go. That is what I've been playing. And how about with that? We take our first break. And when we come back, we will talk about some Gamescom. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Well, actually, before we talk about Gamescom, let me tell you real quick that the best way that you can support Geekverse is by going to our Patreon and supporting us at any tier that is economical for you. The bigger the tier, the more benefits you get. But even at the smallest tier, you are very much appreciated, and you help keep the lights on, as we like to say. If you join at the top tier, you can request us to review a movie, or we've had one game review, and you can do more of those. I mean, if you pick something that's like a 100-hour RPG, might be hard for us to do, but I will do my best. So, you can request whatever you want in there. You also get episodes early and ad-free. Sometimes you get episodes months and months and months early, so it's a good place to go. And yeah, join our Discord. Always fun talking with everyone in there. You can leave a review. That helps us out a lot. Travis, what's coming up on the feeds this week?
Well, at least something we haven't promoted yet because it was on Patreon for a while, but it's on the real feeds now, or the public feeds, is the 9-year anniversary cast. It's about a 3-hour cast of the 9-year Q&A, and then also the 2012 Golden Geeks. So obviously fun episode. That was a good kind of as we said in that, somehow we've been doing this for over 9 years now, but we're still learning about things about each other. So, and there's like some good, like, it's a good mix of Golden Geeks, there's some current stuff talked about, but that. And then later on this week we're recording, and then we'll be dropping a Beetlejuice retro for that because the sequel's coming out. And then if there's any Middle Earth fans, we will be diving back soon because this Thursday they drop 3 episodes. So we'll be reviewing all three of those. Yeah, all 3. So we'll be doing that. And then, the next few weeks is just a clutter of that, Agatha, Penguins, lots of good TV stuff coming up. So
Yeah, the other thing I forgot to mention too is tomorrow morning, or rather the morning this episode drops, Nintendo just announced that they're doing 2 directs. They're doing a indie direct as well as a partner direct. So, you're probably not going to see your Marios or your Zeldas. If that is very juicy, might try and find someone here to do like a episode early, because next week is kind of going to be about Outlaws. If they're pretty underwhelming, but there's a couple interesting things, then we'll probably just tack that into next week's episode. So look out, there might be a bonus episode of Sidequest this week, kind of just depending on what's interesting from those directs, if anything at all. Hopefully there's some cool things in there. Usually there's some big indie interesting stuff that shows its face there, so we'll take a look at what that is. Cool. Let's talk about Gamescom. So we already did a little bit because we were talking about Starfield there, but yeah, Gamescom is a lot of things, and I feel like this is the first year where I felt like it was a lot bigger of a deal than it ever has in the past, and maybe that's just how it's going. Every year it's getting a little bit bigger, and this year it finally actually made a splash to some extent. Maybe not a huge cannonball splash, but at least bigger than the years prior. So of course there's Jeff Keighley's opening night live, and that very much looks and feels and smells like any other Summer Game Fest or Game Awards showcase that he does. The quality of announcements not quite as high, but I still felt like there was actually some really interesting and high-profile things shown there. And then Xbox went hard. They did 3 days of streaming, and each day was like a 2.5, 3 hour long live stream. It wasn't all just announcements, of course, that whole time. It was a lot of like, here's a half an hour with Stalker 2, where you see some gameplay, interview some devs, and then show a new trailer. And it was that for like 3 days. So there's a lot of stuff in there. And then there was even some other ones. I think it was a Future Games show, had another showcase there. They had one at Summer Game Fest. So most of this stuff is from opening live, but I've picked a couple other things from other showcases and other just announcements that I thought were interesting from the last few days. We're not going to be encyclopedic here. We're not going through every single announcement for an opening live, because there was a lot of stuff that's like, okay, saw this at Summer Game Fest. Here's like a new trailer that shows a little bit more. But also, truth be told, I did not watch this showcase from start to finish, and I just kind of watched the things that were interesting to me. So that's how it's going to be. I know you at least maybe had it on in the background. What I said there about like the show feeling bigger than it has before. Did you feel that when you were watching it, or even like afterwards looking at the announcements, or am I kind of alone on that, or seeing it from the outside since I didn't actually watch the showcase?
It's kind of like a yes or no, because it's tough, because I feel like Gamescom, we every once in a while get a few little announcements here and there, but it was never E3, Summer Games Fest, Video Game Awards, whatever you want to compare it to. So it is getting bigger per se, but at the same time, I think it was another like 2 hour show, and I did watch it all. I can fully admit there's like a lot of things in there that just weren't for me. So that always, of course, never helps, right, when you're trying to watch a show. But I just also feel like there was just a lot of, I don't know, they saved some stuff near towards the back end, and it was bigger, but it's still on like a lower tier. So I watched it and felt like I honestly could have skipped it for the most part. There's a lot of things that are similar. I can't remember what they were. It was like I think it was like that classic thing where it was like kind of two zombie. Oh yeah, it was like Dying Light, and then the other, what's that zombie game that we talked about, had like they showed at Summer Games Fest. It's something like To Hell and Back To, or Dead by
Hell Let Loose, maybe.
Yeah, and it was like that where it's like you did Dying Light, and then a couple games then you did that. It's like, okay, like there's a little samey stuff going on there. So to me, the show was like passable. It was fun. I always like watching game stuff, but the first hour there was really nothing for me. There was nothing that was getting me jazzed, at least. And it's tough too, because like again, they started off with like Borderlands 4. That could be big for a lot of people. So that's where I think the game was paced pretty much like your Summer Games Fest. I think that's where I definitely think for the Keighley stuff, the Game Awards is the best, because it has like a bigger feel. And I think actually the speeches in the awards are nice breaks, because sometimes when it is just game after game, but sometimes they do that half an hour.
He also wants that to be the biggest by far.
Yes.
Like that's when he has the most his most heart into it, I feel like. So I feel like in some cases he might even try and save stuff, so to speak. Not that he just has all these things sitting on a hard drive that he can drop at any moment. But yeah, I feel like that's the one he wants to pop the biggest, because he wants that viewership number to be breaking records every year, right?
Yeah. And I also think that like it's a catch-22. I think, not saying Jeff should not be, and Jeff and the other co-host should not be there, but I think they should really just be there to, when they want to have a dev on stage and talk. I don't think they got to be out there almost every 3 games and then to announce another. Like, here's another.
Yeah.
It's just like, just let it go. Let it go. You can be there at the beginning, the end, the middle, a couple interviews. But overall, it was still like a fine enough time. But I will fully admit, it also just didn't have a lot of stuff for me. So that's where it's tough for me. It's like I can still think the show is paced well enough, ads wise paced out well enough, but there wasn't anything too Travis like.
Yeah.
It didn't when all that show and already a bunch of days. Nothing for replaced. A game that they're like, well, you're getting updates, and I know they dropped some sort of interview or whatnot, but it's like, oh, you're getting, big updates come 2024. It's like, am I? Because 2024 is near to be over, and I've heard nothing about this game really, other than they did a minor interview like a month or a half ago. So, yeah.
Yep. First up, we'll shout this out. As you mentioned, Borderlands 4 was what started opening night live, which makes sense. The timing of it, the movie just came out, and I'm sure that they had planned this even before the movie came out. And even though the movie has not been doing well, critically or at the box office, it's still that partnership makes sense that they would want to do that. There's not a whole lot to say here, at least for me. Like I don't need to go through my whole Borderlands spiel again. I don't know the details of all these other games because I've only played the first one a lot. So this kind of CG cinematic that really just announcing that it exists doesn't do a whole lot for me. I'm kind of surprised to see it. I guess they probably put this, like, greenlit this even more, especially just because of like the movie coming out and
100%.
It's relevant. But I almost kind of felt like this team was maybe going to go do some other things. I kind of feel like Borderlands 3, and maybe I need to check my numbers here, but I could just kind of feel like people didn't really care too much for that one. And then even Tiny Tina's Wonder Waffle, whatever that was called, like people don't even really care much for that one either. So I just felt like, okay, maybe it's time to like let Borderlands sleep for like 5-10 years and then like have a big comeback. So I'm surprised to see it this soon. At the same time, this game could be like years out because this showcase had like nothing to it. It was really just a name announcement because that might be all they can show at this point. So yeah, it didn't really do much for me, and I assume it's going to be the same for you there.
Yeah, and I think it didn't do too much as far as I think it is just bad timing, right? Because whatever you want to say, like the Borderlands movies kind of become like a meme the past couple weeks. That movie comes out, the re-release Coraline that's almost 2 decades, and it does better. So it's this thing of like, to start off with it was like, I felt bad for that team because they probably were thinking, hey, in a world where this movie comes out, does really well, guess what? You announce a game, that's perfect. Because I think we talk about it all the time where how many movies, like it's different because they're different companies, but how many times movies or TV shows come out for video games and they don't have something ready for them, right? And it's like, well, where's your Mario game? Where is the Last of Us multiplayer game that got canceled? It's stuff where it's just like, hey, like have this ready like the old days. So unfortunately they had like something ready and it just didn't hit. But I wonder if that team's kind of like Gears, where it's just you pump out a game and what are you expected to do? Well, you're expected to do a Gears game again in the next 3 years, and I think it's just that sort of situation. And I felt like not even just the movie, taking that aside, I just felt like the hype around that franchise had kind of simmered. So I'm agreeing with you saying that there's no one like, not like don't do it, but I think it's wait a little bit, and then when people really had a chance to miss it, like even like yourself, that maybe 5 years from now, 3 years they announce it, and then you're like, what, I'd be down for some Borderlands. Whereas right now it still feels too. It doesn't. I feel like they're trying. The teaser made it feel like it was like it's big and coming back, but it doesn't feel like it's been that long since the last kind of any iteration. But hopefully it's good for the fans, and 2K. They got a good, which we'll talk about. They got a good year ahead of them coming up. So.
So next up, I'm going to kind of pair two things in one here. So there's a game called Dying Light: The Beast.
Yes.
That was announced. And then at a separate showcase, there was Sniper Elite Resistance announced. And the reason I'm kind of bundling these together is because I just feel like they're kind of the same sort of situation where we've heard so much recently that AAA games are getting so damn expensive to make, mostly in part because of how long it's taking to develop them. And the window between these games is taking a lot longer. And so I think as one way for companies to try and fix that is they're trying to make these kind of half-step games is what I'm calling them, where it's like, okay, this could have been a DLC for our previous game, but instead we're going to give it its own title, its own subtitle. We're going to put it out, and it kind of holds over the fans in between the bigger release, and then the expectations can be a bit lower. The game can be shorter.
Like a Miles Morales
less
situation.
expensive. Miles Morales is the perfect
Yeah.
example, and Dishonored did this quite a few years ago, actually, but with Death of the Outsider, it was kind of the same situation. And I also think it makes a lot of sense just because sales-wise, now the people who are eligible to buy your game is every gamer that has the console available, instead of just the people who have the console available plus already own Dying Light 2 or Sniper Elite 5 in this case. So it's interesting to see both of these things, both of these IP getting a game kind of like this. So Dying Light the Beast, I don't know if I have much to say on that because I haven't played Dying Light 2. I guess maybe the one interesting and potentially scummy sort of thing, you can make up your mind on that, is that Dying Light 2 had like a premium edition of some sort. And if you purchased that, you are grandfathered and you own the Beast. You'll get it. So it almost is like a DLC for that. However, after this game was announced, they removed that version from sale. So you can no longer buy that version and I guess get like the discounted version of this game. And so I don't know, maybe this thing started as a smaller DLC and maybe it just ballooned to a point where it was so big that they decided, okay, maybe we should actually split it out. And that's where this kind of whole thing comes from.
Yeah.
So I can see where they're coming from here. And then Sniper Elite 5, or Sniper Elite Resistance rather, to me, this I don't know, this was never like connected to 5 in any sort of way, but with that team, especially like we know their next major game is not going to be a Sniper Elite 5. That wait's going to be even longer than normal. So I think this makes a lot of sense for them. And it honestly, it looks like it could be DLC where you play as a different character and a couple new maps kind of thing from what Sniper Elite 5 was. But yeah, any thoughts on these two games here?
Not Sniper Elite I have no experience with, so I don't have much to add there. I think like you said, it's interesting. These are good things to do because it's tough to, I want to see how these do more on the business side more so than me playing them or critically, because Miles is a tough example because Spider-Man, everyone loved that game and it's a big IP, right?
And it was a launch title.
Yeah, it was launch title that did very well for him. So I'm always curious of how these, because I know Last of Us did, or not, Uncharted did this. So I'm always curious to see how these actually do, because you can make the case, you make this little venture and it's out there, but do enough of that fan base come out and support and buy it? And that's where I'll be curious to see how it goes. And then I was looking at the date because Dying Light 2 was February 2022. So I maybe feel like a little less bad about taking that version away. With like, I do agree, they could have kept it, but at the same time, it's like it's almost a 3-year game. In a few months, it'll be 3 years. So it's like at this point, you could have done this, and I think it is. I don't have as much a problem with this as I do with like some of the things we've talked about with microtransactions or other things, right? Because at the end of the day, they still, as we cover almost, every month or every couple months, studios close all the time, right? So if them, pulling this away, I kind of look at it's kind of like, unfortunately, Patreon doesn't have this. I hope they do this, but kind of a grandfather you in sort of tier, right? Where it's like, hey, if you support us early on, got this DLC, you're going to get this. But hey, if you didn't, then here it is. So I don't feel as bad, but that's cool. I know Kirkland and Taylor, I don't know if they were hyped about, but they had talked about, because they were big fans of those ones, especially I don't know how much they played of 2, but I know at least with 1, and they said this was.
Yeah, I don't think they played 2 at all.
Yeah, where this one at least I think is a character that ties directly to 1, or is that exact character. Right. It's something to do with that, some lore. So I think that's always a fun thing to return to. So yeah.
Yeah, I after watching this trailer, and it always has been the case, like Dying Light does look like my cup of tea. I like the scary games. I really had a great time with Dead Island 2 last year. That was a really good time, or I think I played it earlier this year maybe. Really, really good time with that either way. So this does look like something I would really enjoy. So I don't know. I will probably check out one of these games eventually. It's just been lower on the priority list, clearly. And then, Sniper Elite, I have been talking about recently. I've been getting into these games. I really enjoyed Sniper Elite 5. I think it came out 2 years ago as well, so same timeline-ish as Dying Light, and I just played through Sniper Elite 2, so that timing is extra coincidental. But yeah, I'm excited for this. This is going to be a day one for me. I'm pretty sure this game is coming to Game Pass day one, as Sniper Elite 5 did, as their other titles have been recently, and as their other game that they're currently working on, Adamfall, is as well. So there's clearly a partnership there. They're not a first-party studio, but like all their games are going there. I didn't put this in our notes, but Adamfall as well got a new like extended gameplay thing at that Xbox showcase. That game looks amazing. I am so excited for it, especially how much I've been loving Rebellion as a studio recently. I'm so happy for them. I think that game could pop pretty big. Like, it looks really, really good. So I'm excited for that. And that's probably one of my most anticipated games for next year, honestly. Adamfall looks really, really good. So those are those two. This one, I think it'll be more of a quick shout out, but Black Myth Wukong came out a few days ago and had a launch trailer sort of I think the game had already been out actually by the time like the launch trailer would have dropped. Trying to think about the math of that. But I really wanted to bring this up just to say that wow, this game has sold like insanely well, over 10 million. I think already over 12 million perhaps, even just like over the weekend or something.
It did better 3-day sales than Hogwarts and Elden Ring, which is crazy.
Absolutely insane. So I mean, it makes sense because that's a genre that people love. But yeah, how is it doing better than the From Software version of Elden Ring? That's crazy. I feel like over time, I would imagine Elden Ring will have sold better like by the end of its life. Yeah. I would imagine, but like I don't know. This
you never know, right?
Yeah. So much bigger than I was expecting. It always looked amazing. It looked unreal, and the fact that it's actually good as well as looking unreal is pretty awesome. So happy for those fans that there's another. There's just been so many of these, like even Lies of P. I think that was last year, where it's like, man, a lot of other studios are able to capture that From Software formula now in a really good way that doesn't have all these caveats. So I'm happy for those fans. It's not really my cup of tea. No one here at Geekverse is really going to be playing that one, I don't think. We all dabbled a little bit, but I don't think... I think we all have so many Dark Souls games and Bloodborns to play that we're not going to Black Myth Wukong. But yeah, it looks great. Congratulations to that team. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's not that I doubted it. I just, every time I saw it, I didn't think of it as, record-breaking game, because it doesn't matter even if it, even if it doesn't. I can't remember the Steam, like for a single player, I think it broke the record for that, like most concurrent players on a Steam game that's a single player game. So it's just like, yeah, that's very impressive. Obviously it has a lot to do with the country it's based on, and that has to do a lot with the player base as well, but still it doesn't matter. There's tons of games that can be made for that market, or even movies, and it doesn't mean the people come out, right? So no, this game, and I feel like we have been talking about for a while, was announced a while back, and I feel like we've got many showings or trailers, so I was kind of like, okay, yeah, that game's out. And I was going to ask you, so the only situation I don't know about that, do you know why it's not on Xbox?
I saw that apparently they were having issues with the hardware side of things in terms of like stability of frame rates or something. So it's coming still, but they just had to get something sorted out, which seems to be an issue. Like this generation, PlayStation kind of had that with the PS3, where a lot of developers struggled with that hardware, and it seems like that's just happening for some reason on the Xbox Series X for first-party developers as well as the third-party ones. We saw with like Redfall how long it took to get that 60 frames, Starfield, how they said it was impossible, and they're like adding it too. So it's like even like Avowed. I'm like, how Avowed they announced this frames. It's a 30 FPS game, and I'm like, how is that game unable to do 60? It's crazy.
Well, and even I don't know if it was tied to this or if it's a separate one, and also because I don't care about the Suicide Squad, so I didn't look into it. But I don't know if it was a leak or an actual person that worked on the game. But there was something that was higher up that someone said that apparently just working on like the Series S for that like really screwed them over, which is like a super pain for that. So
yeah, I mean, I get it too. Like if the console sales are where they're at, like for developers, it makes a whole lot more sense to put those resources into a PlayStation version. For a lot of teams, it might even make sense. Don't even do an Xbox version first. Like just do your PlayStation, do your Steam, get the game out there, and then maybe if it's like really successful and if people really clearly want it on Xbox, go for it. But if you don't have that Game Pass connection, it might not be even worth it for your team right now, especially with the future where we're going with Xbox potentially.
It just sucks though, because I think a game like that is not that it's not on people's radar, it is, but then when it starts to blow up and it's reviewed pretty well and people seem to like it, you miss out on that, those hype buys, right? Of I'm gonna lock down. And then if it's like, well, if you have an Xbox and PlayStation and I can't get an Xbox, like, well, it's like a de facto of you've lost money. Maybe people would automatically, right? But it's like you eliminate even the option of someone being like, I'm going to get, because many times I would buy games on my Xbox just because I have more storage over there. But it's like, let's say for some reason I want to play this game and it's like, well, I got more storage on my Xbox, but I literally can't play it. Well, you've missed out on that opportunity. So it's an odd, and also you don't know what games are going to blow up. I didn't think this was going to blow up, but when that does happen, you kind of kick yourself in the face of going like, oh man, like, we could have had like the game that's the hottest thing right now. It's very much like it was the Helldiver situation again, right? Where it's like they didn't have that. Obviously, it was exclusive, but still, that's when Phil's trying to say is, oh, well, I don't believe games should be exclusive yet, and all this jazz. But that's where it was like, hey, the hot game right now, you guys don't have. Yeah. And now it's like this thing again where it's like a hot game that no one knew Helldiver was going to do this. No one knew this was going to do that. And it's just like, again, it's like, oh man, like gotta work out that stuff to make it easier for those devs to bring those games to you, but
yeah, I mean, it makes the numbers even that much more impressive that one of the main places that people are buying these games it wasn't even on there, and it still achieved these sales.
Yeah.
Like, and that's clear. There's always going to be a million games that come out. Some you can anticipate, some other ones, but that was a big story going around at some point that Larian were trying to get some funding for Baldur's Gate 3, and Xbox like kind of turned them down, didn't want to do it. And it's like, wow, they missed out on a big pot of money there by not doing that. But like, how could they have known based on that studio's past? Like,
you don't, but they're missing a lot of like, how could you knows? Like that's like 3 within the last 15, 16 months. Where again, it's not even like take stuff I've said about Xbox. It's just like, hey, whoever's making these specific decisions, someone's got to sit them down and be like, hey, either you got to hand this off, or like you got to maybe take some risks on some, right? Because it's just that I remember Baldur's Gate being a big thing, and then I felt like by the time they got it, the hype was gone, and people had already had their console versions of everything or PC, right? So interesting.
Yep, very interesting. Moving along, this is not at opening night live, but I wanted to show this out. Lonely Mountains Snow Riders. So this is a sequel to Lonely Mountains Downhill, which came out a few years ago now. It's a game I've played on the Switch. That is a downhill mountain biking game. It's really not about like tricks. It's really not about racing. It's more of a time trial / just like trying to find creative and fun and interesting ways down this mountain, mixed with it being like a physics platformer. So you really got to take your corners correctly, because your character will just fly off his bike and smash into a tree, and then you got to restart. It's one of those kind of games, and it's amazing. It's a really, really fun game. Tons of replayability, a lot of unlocks that changes how everything plays there. And so I was really excited to see this announcement of Snow Riders, which is taking that same art style, that same sort of gameplay, but transitioning it to a skiing game. I was wishing that there would be snowboarding in here as well. Maybe that's a DLC or an expansion they can do in the future. For now, it seems like just skiing is the sport we're dealing with here. But yeah, very much that same sort of thing, but there's quite a few new additions to it. Online multiplayer being a big one, and they mentioned that there's several multiplayer modes that are in here. So it's racing, or it's like working as a team, which looks pretty cool, where you're trying to team up and get different objectives. Like maybe you have to go down this one secret path, so you can send one guy to go do that while you go down this other route. You can set flares and checkpoints for each other, so it looks really cool. They're adding like a full trick system to this, because Lonely Mountains Downhill, not really about tricks. Like you can do spins and things, but you're not like it's not like a Tony Hawk thing where you're whipping all these crazy tricks out. So this is adding that sort of system. And then also I just love snow physics in games. So seeing the skier just plow through here in the satisfying tracks in the snow it's leaving, that's a big thing for me as well. So obviously the setting is just new and different as well. But yeah, very excited for this. It's going to be a day one for me. I really love that first game that they made. So yeah, very excited for this. Wanted to put that on people's radars.
Nice.
Next up, don't know how much we'll talk about this, but Dune Awakening. I feel like there's just endless trailers for this game, and the main thing that
they're promoting.
The main thing that stood out to me that I hadn't really seen a lot of before, and especially was a big thing with this trailer, was just the I always forget the name, the ornithopter. Is that what the dragonfly kind of helicopter thing is called? Anyway, there's a lot of flying around in that, looking at these different environments and stuff. The more I see this game, the less I'm interested in it, which is too bad. I feel like it started out and it was just that like CG trailers. I was like, ooh, what could this game be? And then the first trailer or something afterwards, I was like, this looks pretty interesting. And then I feel like I'm down on like the downturn now. I don't know what it is. It's just something visually. I mean, it's always the fact that it's an MMO that is really dragging me out of it.
Yes.
But I don't know. Even just the world, it just doesn't look as magical and spicy as I want it to be. It just looks a little too bland, unfortunately, and it's not eliciting the Dune reactions out of me. I'm not singing the songs like that lady that we always show off. So I don't know. I'm not feeling too great about this one. Any new thoughts on it?
Obviously, MMO, I've said before, probably not going to get into this. I want to like it. I think it kind of gave me a little, and I've never played it because there've been so many updates, and updates where it's changed everything. But there are some like kind of No Man's Sky vibes it gave me, where they just really were hitting on, you can explore this and find these secrets and go to this area. And other than that one thing where I thought was cool, where okay, there's like something to do with spice and a bunch of people trying to get in, you get as much as you can. That's cool. There's just a lot of like, and you'll never know what you can find on Arrakis, and it's just like, I guess like so they made that pitch, right, of that story that I did enjoy that pitch. It's like, oh, this is cool. But then I guess it's maybe a smart thing, because sometimes these games do this where they talk about, oh, this is the story, you can play this, but then the story is just very little. But this looks like it has no story beats at all. It's just you getting together. I don't know. There's still something about this that makes me want to like maybe dip my toes in for a little bit just to see because I'm curious and I do like the world. But I just watch this. It's like what is there to do? It's like, oh well, people can build stuff and you can buy it off. I'm like, okay, I guess. And just like this guy pulls up on a bike and gives you a gun for doing. It's like, okay, I guess. Like I think I would need for to enjoy this game was one, free time, but two is just like all of us together to decide, okay, we're going to play it as a group and do that, which I don't think that's something that's going to happen because I think we've all looked at this game and had, whether it's similar issues or different issues. How much it is. I still haven't said. There's not even a date on it yet, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me
because the end of that trailer said wish listed now or whatever. And I would think that it would have like a trailer or is it a date on it, but
early 2025. But I don't know if that's like an early access situation or if that would be like the 1.0 launch.
So I don't know. It just looked like you might run out of things to do in this game, and exploring could be good, but the world didn't look too great. But I didn't mind the trailer, so like I said, I would like to try it at least once. So
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along to Civilization 7. So this is a big deal for me. I love this series. I haven't played every game in it by any means, but it's a series I've spent hundreds of hours playing over the course of my life. And it's been up and down for sure. Like Civ 5 is still my favorite game in the series. Civ 6, I didn't love a lot of the directions that it went, but it still added a lot of really amazing things as well. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting here too, where there's a lot of things that I think look really amazing, great additions, and there's some things that I'm a little more skeptical on. So honestly, I could talk about this one for 2 hours, so I'll try and keep it pretty contained, but I'll just throw to you first. Any thoughts on Civilization 7? I know you have not played the series, and it's not really your genre, but yeah, did you like anything you were seeing here or hearing? Yeah. There's Gwendolyn Christie as the narrator this time around.
I saw, yeah.
I'm sure that's pretty good for a lot of people.
No, like I said before, the last time wherever this was shown, I really enjoyed it. And Civ is something I've always, because I do like that gameplay, but I still would probably try a older one first. I don't think I'm throwing down money on this one just to try, but there were aspects of games that I did play in the past that I enjoyed. So I've said, because I have it on a list I haven't put on Backloggd, I want to try to get into Civ at some point here, just waiting for the right time, aka probably a Games Pass moment
Civ
or something
6
like
on the
that.
Switch would be a good option, by the way, because that game goes on deep sale pretty often, and just because of the Switch angle of it, is a game you'd maybe want to be playing on the go, or if someone's watching TV and you're just playing on the couch kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is a very, very time-consuming game, though, so that would be like the one thing where I don't know where it fits. Yes,
that's why in the past I've always been like, I'm gonna wait on this, but at some point in my life I will do. But no, it looks cool.
Yeah, so here I have kind of like some pros and some cons. So pros, I mean, one, I think the game visually looks great. I think it's a little bit less cartoony than Civ 6 was, so maybe like in between Civ 5 and 6, which I'm appreciating. And I think for me, like the one of the biggest things is just the maps. The worlds look so much more lively and interesting than they have ever before. Civ 6 did a really good job of this, but I feel like even more so than before. Just like I feel like Civ has never really had like hills. Like there's mountains, there's like mountain tiles, but I feel like they didn't really ever flow nicely from hills, and so I feel like there's just more typography in that way, which I find really interesting. There's like cliff sides, which I've never seen before, so I'm sure that'll be interesting in terms of how you're building your cities. I really just like the visual style of everything. It looks like very lively and dynamic, so I'm excited for that. There's things like typhoons and like volcanoes they were showing, which was like one of the DLC updates from Civ 6 was adding all these crazy weather things, and you can get like flooded and like volcanoes can go off and all this crazy stuff. And I don't think I ever got that DLC, so it's something I never played with. So that looks really cool. I like that kind of stuff. In Civ 6 as well, there was a big element around like global warming and climate change. That was like one of the things you had to keep an eye on, which is really cool and really timely. So hopefully this game kind of has some of those mechanics brought into it as well. It's a fun way of like, I got to build my empire as big and strong as powerful as I possibly can, but I also have to make sure I'm not killing the earth in the process, or else
it's a good thing to do, people.
For me to lead, So it's all that stuff's really good. I think the way that they showed off like expanding cities seems really cool, where in every other Civ game, you're going around, you're planting cities, cool, and then your cities grow over time. That'll make sense. But in this, you're kind of sending your settlers out and you're forming towns, and the towns will be towns for a while, and then once they've built up enough, then they will turn into a fully fledged city. And I really like that. I feel like there's a lot of potential with that mechanic in terms of sometimes you just want a certain resource, or maybe there's a world wonder or something on the map that you want to have within your borders, but like there isn't really enough else around to justify a city, but you kind of just do it anyway. So then you just have this kind of shitty city that's part of your civ, but you kind of need it there, you kind of don't. And so I feel like the idea of like a town makes a lot of sense in terms of just kind of claiming a place with lower potential commitment. You don't need to micromanage it as much, but then if you do want it to expand and grow into a big city, you can do that too. So that seems really cool. I really like that idea. What else was there with that? One little thing for me, but potentially really big cool thing is that there's just boats that you can travel through on rivers. You've never been able to do that before. Like boats have always been only on like the open sea and ocean, and rivers have always been like a pain in the ass because you lose like all your movement. It takes all of your movement energy to like get over a river until you get like bridge tech later in the game. But that seems cool that you can like maybe go through the map quicker. They were showing it on a scout, so I don't know if it's just a scout thing, and scouts already move pretty quick. So not sure what fully what's going on there, but I liked visually how it looked. And then one of the big things they've been highlighting here is that the late game, they're really trying to focus on the late game and make it a lot more interesting. And I and most Civ fans really don't like the late game. We really like the early days, and like the middle game's fun, but then like the late game when you're in a modern era and it's just war and like just people min-maxing, it becomes less interesting. You're not exploring as much. That's when the game kind of dries out, and usually I don't finish campaigns because I get to a later era and then I'm like, I'm good. I've kind of lived out my fantasy or what I wanted to do here. And so, I mean, I think that's, of course, they're going to be something that they're going to say, and whether they're going to nail it in game, who knows? But I, of course, like to hear them talking about that. Some of the bad stuff, potentially bad. I'm not going to say it's bad yet, but some of the things that are potentially a little bit worrying. One thing is they've talked about there's no more workers. Really, the short of it is just like workers you'd send out and they would build like roads or improvements. And you know, for me that was something I really liked. I really liked planning out my routes and planning out what my workers are doing and managing that. That was a thing I really enjoyed. It maybe can get a bit monotonous for some people, but you can always automate them if that's the case for you. I always really liked them. In Civ 6, they changed them a lot. They made them a lot less of that and more just like they do individual things. And now they've just removed them completely. So don't like that, but who knows? Maybe it'll work out well. And then one of the big things that people have really been potentially beefing with here is that you can, you know, it's always been like you pick a civ and that civ has like a given leader. So it's like Napoleon. If you pick France, Napoleon is the leader. Boom, you're done. In this game, you can pick different leaders for different civs. So now Napoleon can be the leader of like the Mayan Empire.
Why don't people like that? Like it's after all this time, it's like it's kind of a fun change up, don't you think, or no?
I think for a lot of people, like the history element of it, even if it is like this alternate reality, it's just something weird and freaky about it. And I get it. I think I'm guessing in the settings, you can have an option that's like tie leaders to their civ. And then boom, if you want to do that, go ahead. So I'm guessing that'll be an option. Usually these games in the custom settings, like there's tons of ways you can customize the experience. So I'm guessing that'll be the case here. They also say like, hey, there's an indicator here. So if you want to play as France and you don't know just from your history background who the leader of that is, you can just, it shows an icon, so you can pick that one. So I'm guessing you can make it so that the NPCs, computer players, or even if you're playing with a group of friends, you can all decide that, right? So you could still do it. It just seems like an interesting change that who knows how that'll go. The other thing too that they've talked about that I'm really on the fence with is that in between ages, this hasn't never really been a mechanic before, but they've talked about there's 3 distinct ages. There's the antiquity age, there's the exploration age, and then the modern age. And there's going to be like, those are going to be like big chapters, big endpoints. So obviously, as I said, these games are long. It takes a long time to do one playthrough. They're kind of building these to be like, okay, this is like a natural endpoint. You know, you could save the game, come back the next day, continue, that sort of thing. But also there's going to be a lot of changes when those ages happen. And one of those is that you're going to change your civ. So you pick Egypt in the ancient or the antiquity era, but then once you have completed the antiquity era, you'll move into the next age, and now you pick a new civ. So I don't know, like I don't know what the natural progression would be. Let's just say like Morocco is where Egypt goes to. So like after that, you would go down like a skill tree. You'd pick like which civ you want to become after that. And so it's like some of them are going to be historically accurate, but some of them, like Egypt's still around today, obviously. So it's like not like Egypt disappeared, whereas some of like Mayan Empire, you know, maybe that like turned into Mexico or whatever it is. So I don't know. That could be kind of weird. I just like the idea of like picking my civ. I'm playing as France, and I'm France the whole way through. But maybe now you can't really do some of that anymore. So
Yeah.
that could go. That could be a pro. Could be a con. We'll see how it goes. And then they also talked about you can start at any of those ages. So now you don't have to start back in the antiquity era. If you just want to do a modern day game, you could do that. I don't see myself doing that a whole lot or at all really, but I think it's a good option, especially for people who want a shorter game. If they just want to play, a 2-hour campaign, they can play on the shortest difficulty, go with just the modern age. Boom, you can have your civ fix. So I don't think that's a bad thing. I guess I shouldn't have put this in my con list because it's cool just to have that option. It's just not something I see myself doing a whole lot of. So
Yeah.
there you go. I'm very intrigued by this game. I'm very excited to pick it up and play it, and hopefully I like it. I just don't know if I will on the deeper strategy side of things. That's what I'm worried about, but I think it'll at least be a good few hours of investigating some of these new mechanics, and just visually such a beautiful game, and there's a lot of mechanics that I think look really, really cool. So yeah, it seems like the community, not that I'm deep in the community, but just looking at Reddit a little bit, people are kind of split, but like, maybe trying to be optimistic, which I think is a good standpoint to have. But yeah, I think that's supposed to be coming out next year. I'm gonna have to get my PC upgraded before then.
February I was looking at.
Oh
before.
shit! Okay, I'm gonna have to get my PC upgraded soon because I definitely am not playing that on an Xbox. I'll tell you that much. I think for you, you've never played these series before. You don't have that lineage, but for me, like this is a PC game, and I don't see myself picking it up on Xbox. I don't know unless I don't get the PC upgraded before then. That's how I'd have to go. But there you go. There is Civ 7. Any questions on anything I said there? Or is that it's kind of hard to understand without having played the games, I guess.
I understand a little bit of it. Yeah, no, I think I had my questions about the leaders and stuff, but it is tough when it's a big game and it's 7, but like I'm sure isn't there like spin-offs too. It's not just the numbered ones. There's like other
There's been a couple
ones
spin-offs.
too.
Yeah, there was like the first spin-off that was like making it more of a console version. It was more console friendly, and now they've kind of just integrated that into the main games.
So must be tough after that long, always making not the same game, but something similar. But you want to bring new stuff. So
yeah, definitely not an easy design problem. That's for sure. Let's take our last break of the day. We will be right back. Okay, we have just 4 more things to talk about on the list here. The first up is a TV show, actually, Secret Level. This is coming out December 10th. Me and Kirkland talked about this 2 weeks ago, or was it me and Taylor last week? I don't even know anymore, but at some point
when the Spelunky thing was out there, right?
Yes, I talked about this with, I think it was Taylor last week.
Yeah, that's even before it had a title even, I think, at that point. Did it have the title?
We had the title, and then we knew that there was a New World and a Spelunky thing, and then PlayStation was somewhat related. But that's all we knew. But we got a trailer here which showed off, obviously, footage of a bunch of these episodes. It was really like teasers for each of them. It's not like we got like, here's 1 minute of what the story of the Mega Man one is going to be like. Yeah. It was more like quick slices. But then we got just a list of all the IP, maybe not all the IP, but a lot of the IP that are going to be involved. So I'll just rifle out this list real quick. There's an Armored Core episode with potentially Keanu Reeves. Some people are theorizing it might be Keanu.
I think it's confirmed it is him.
Okay.
I think it's confirmed.
Which makes sense after Cyberpunk. He's a gamer, apparently.
Yeah.
We have a Concord episode, Crossfire X, Dungeons and Dragons, Exodus, Honor of Kings, Mega Man, New World, The Outer Worlds, Pac-Man. One that is just Kratos and Jin Sakai in like a city.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. There's a Sifu, Spelunky, Unreal Tournament, and Warhammer 40K. So I guess just quick, like I've never heard of Exodus or Honor of Kings. So we can cross those off our list. We don't talk about those a whole lot. Crossfire X is a weird one. Concord is a very weird choice here. I think it makes sense with Concord. They really want that to be a story-based thing. There's these story vignettes and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that's Sony being like, oh, we'll give you Kratos, but we'd really like a Concord episode.
Yeah,
in there
that's
too,
my thing too. Like some of these feel like the studio must have been really passionate to make some of these stories. Like a Spelunky, I can't imagine Derek, you and the team over there at Mossmouth wanting to shell out $100,000 to get a episode of this. That does not make any sense. But then there's other ones that are like, yeah, Concord. I don't see any way where someone could have been passionate about this IP that didn't exist yet enough to want to make an episode about it. So some of it is kind of weird in terms of I wonder where the origins of this are. But yeah, I don't know. Where do you want to start? Any episodes that are intriguing you here in particular?
Just overall, I'm very excited. It's Tim Miller, and I don't know if it's other people because in the credits they listed like from the producers of Love, Death, and Robots, which
Yeah.
we reviewed. I think season 1 and 2, and then 3 we just I think decided not to because I don't think we loved to, and I never got around to watching all that. So this actually kind of made it be
Yeah.
like, you know what, I'm gonna finish off that show. It's on Netflix. I love this idea. There's a lot of random stuff, but at the same time, I kind of like that because it's a whole bag of goodies, and I'll watch these all, even ones I'm not interested in. I'll give them a chance because you never know what might be interesting, because maybe something makes something more exciting or I'm more intrigued by in a short film slash
Hmm.
TV show than a game, right? So I really like this. I obviously it's going to be on Amazon, so they got as much money as possible. But still, it's one of these things of like, I wonder what they view. Like, I would love to know how this got started, right? Because it'd be different if it was secret level and it's like a bunch of mini short stories about Sony or Xbox. But it's like with all these different companies, I would love to know the initial pitch and everything. But yeah, I think the PlayStation one, the Jin and Kratos ones are the two like Kratos to me, it makes sense. He's, you know, the PlayStation IP, but with Jin, I'm very excited to see what they could do with that. So
Well, I mean, I see this theory, and I think it makes a lot of sense that Kratos and Jin, they're not in the same shot, but it looks like they're maybe looking towards each other potentially. Like, it's different shots, so it's hard to say. But like Kratos in particular, he's in like a New York ass city,
yes,
so it's like, okay, is this going to be a PlayStation All Stars situation? Because that's what they talked about. They haven't said like this God of War IP is in here. They've always just said, and even with like the official stuff, just like PlayStation IP are going to be involved
yes.
in some way. And so I think that's amazing. I'm if that is the case, that might be other than Spelunky Force. Like my most hyped episode is just getting a fully beautiful ass cinematic of some PlayStation All Stars battles going on. Even if it's just Kratos against Jin, I will take a 15-minute episode of those two duking it out in
That would be
I don't know what would
amazing.
be like a PlayStation like city. Like what city could that be? I guess just like Uncharted takes place. Like Nathan Drake lives in like New York or something, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to
Or
think
is it
what
like a
else.
Last of
Even
Us
I
like
was gonna say
world or
Last of
something?
Us, or is it even somebody from like it's a deep pull, but even like Infamous? I never played those games,
Oh,
but if they
okay,
have like
yeah.
a fictional city that looks like New York, you know, so
Mm-hmm.
something like
Yeah.
that. I wonder if it's a fighting episode, or I wonder if it's something almost fourth wall breaky, like just like these characters get pulled out of a game sort of way, and like they're
Okay.
trying to get their way back. Like, I could see it something like that too, because I've seen people running wild with the All Star theory, and I don't want to get too excited because I'd love them to do that again, but I could see
I don't even
something
think they
like
would necessarily call it that, but even
no,
if
of
it's just that
course, yeah,
concept, I think that would be really fun.
yeah,
Yeah, I think maybe my one, because I think it's really fun. I like the list here is some freakish picks as well as some obvious picks as well as like some deep cut picks. Like it's kind of got a mix of everything.
yeah.
Of
Like
course, I would.
Pac-Man and Mega Man is like the classic, like
Yeah.
that's classic stuff right there. Mega Man, I'm actually looking very forward to because
Hmm.
I feel like that could be like a good proof of concept, because I don't think the franchise is big enough for like a big thing, but like Mega Man, he can be fucking cool. So I just don't know,
Yeah.
like you could do. I feel like there's something with Mega Man as like a space adventure, you know, sort of deal.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I think my one maybe critique of this trailer is that a lot of these I think the art style looks a lot more samey than I was expecting, especially with
yes,
Love Death Robots, where almost every episode is like completely unique and really cool, and some of them were unlike anything I've ever seen before, just
hmm,
super duper creative. Whereas a lot of this looked, yeah, very similar kind of character models, similar level of detail, similar style and lighting. And I think where that most had me disappointed is the Spelunky one. I wanted that to be cute. Spelunky to me has
yeah.
always been a very cute thing because of Derek Hughes' art, and I feel like there's nothing about this that really elicits his art style to me. So that's a little bit disappointing. Of course, I'm still gonna watch the hell out of that episode. I'll probably watch it a million times. In that quick snippet we saw, it looks like Anna Spelunky, who is like the protagonist of the second game, the daughter of Spelunky guy from the first game, and she looks to be in Volcana, which is an area only in the second game, and as well it's got like one of the lizard things spewing lava. So it seems like it's set kind of Spelunky 2 is the setting of it, but I think that will be very fun. But yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed about the art style. I'm not going to rag on it too much till I've actually seen it, just because once again everything is
Yeah.
such a quick shot. We're really just getting like pretty much a screenshot for all these IP, with a couple exceptions. So it's hard to make too many judgments. As you mentioned, yeah, Mega Man. I think that'll be really fun. Pac-Man, I don't know if I care too much about that. Outer Worlds, I think that's really cool. I think there's a lot of potential there. That game has its funny moments. It's a very colorful, interesting world, of course. So there's a lot of different places you go. I'd be curious to see, because I couldn't really recognize the background. I wonder if it is one of those things where it's future proofing and this is a thing from Outer Worlds 2 in terms of location or character, or if it is going to call back to something from the first game. It actually kind of looks a little bit like one of the DLCs now that I think about it. That would be kind of an extra deep cut if it is set in that location that I'm thinking of. What else? I think Sifu can make for a really cool story and art style as well. And since I didn't really care for the gameplay that much, I think that would be... I'd love to see that one. So very excited for that. And what else? I mean, D&D, of course, there's always a lot of potential there. Unreal Tournament was a game I played a lot back in the day, so I'm curious to see how they tackle that. But even something like Armored Core was a weird pick for me of like, if you get one from software pick, and instead of Dark Souls, instead of Elden Ring, they decided to go with Armored Core. That seemed like a really wild pick for me. So I'm not a big mech guy, but I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I feel like, and obviously not saying you can't do one or the other. I think there's been some scuttlebutt about an Elden Ring movie, so they might be like, we don't want you to touch that. We might want to keep that with Kratos, because the Kratos thing, who knows what the deal is, but I still think this is a thing. I feel like we covered in Geek vs. News a couple of years ago. I thought that Amazon had purchased the rights to do a show to God of War. So that's why for me, it's like, oh, well, they could touch Kratos because they're planning on doing something with Kratos. I could be wrong, but that's where I wasn't too surprised.
Looks like that is announced. It is official.
Is there a year on that article announced?
There is not, but there is one trivia on IMDb that says Jason Momoa is interested in the role of Kratos. So
yeah, of course he would be. Yeah, but so I could see that being one reason, and maybe some variety too, right? Just to get like, because there's other than Mega Man, there's not any like really. I guess not sci-fi because Concord is, maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just something too they thought that, like, let's say they do have Keanu Reeves. Does he fit Dark Souls or Elden Ring? Probably not, but Armored Core.
Dude, I could see it. My Elden Ring character actually has a little bit of Keanu energy to him with the long hair, very dark and brooding personality. I don't know. I could see it. Doesn't say many words, right? A man of few words is able to do a lot with his face and his actions. So, I don't know, man. You beat all of them. You could be in all of them.
That's true.
Any other thoughts on Secret Level? Any IP we didn't discuss there?
No, I'm very excited. I hope this does well so they do more. That's what I hope. I'll be watching all of them just to see. And
every season you get like 1 or 2 sequels to the previous episodes, but then you also just get fresh new IP every time. That would be that would be really fun. Moving on to a game called Masters of Albion, which this is a very interesting game. So this is from Pierre Molyneux, who made Dungeon Keeper back in the day. Most notably is kind of the creator and mind behind Fable. He's kind of a controversial guy just because he's kind of like a snake oil salesman as far as game developers go. He's kind of got like the Todd Howard effect where he just says a lot of things about his games and like a lot of it does not end up being true, or just drastically it's just lies. A lot of it is straight up lies. You know, a lot of these things, it's like, I'm sure No Man's Sky wanted to do all those things that they initially announced, and sometimes games are just hard to develop, and they end up canceling mechanics, and then it looks like they lied. But I think Peter Molyneux maybe a little bit closer to like actually just saying falsehoods knowingly at times. Okay. But anyway, he's been gone for a bit. Obviously, Lionhead shut down quite a while ago. He's been doing, I don't even know what he's been doing in the meantime, but he's finally back. He's making a game called Masters of Albion, which looks like it's a bit of a throwback to what Dungeon Master is, where you are controlling this godlike hand, and you're kind of building up a city. You're doing some combat. We'll talk about that more in detail there. But of course, the interesting thing with this is that the name Albion, Masters of Albion, that is the world in Fable. Fable's world is called Albion.
Oh, is it?
It's also just, I guess, colloquially the name for like England, like old England, is just Albion.
Okay.
And funnily enough, I don't know if you remember this game, The First Descendant. We talked about it at like Summer Game Fest, and I was trying to get you and Taylor to maybe jump in and play with me because it was a free-to-play thing. It came out in July, and I jumped in there and played for a couple nights. It was good enough time, but not. I didn't even talk about on Sidequest. That's how little it impacted me, I guess. For whatever reason, that game, I'm pretty sure the world is called Albion as well. So it's not like a trademarked thing or anything. Anyone can call their stuff that. But it's very interesting for him, specifically the creator of Fable, who created that world and called it Albion, to have the same world name for this. I don't know. And it's like a fantasy setting. It's jokey. It's high fantasy. It's very colorful, very similar to Fable. So I feel like he's getting in potentially some hot water here legally. But I'm kind of all into it in terms of like actually the aesthetic of it. But what did you think of this one?
It definitely, I did not have that backstory. So now that you brought the Fable comparisons, it had that where it's fantasy-esque, even color tone, has some tongue-in-cheek sort of stuff going on there. Saw a cooking system that looked like a game you could pick up on Steam called Potion Prom. I saw that. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I saw that. Yeah. So I don't mind because it's there, it's kind of falls into, and I don't even know, there's just untitled games like the Civs things where it's like these are games that I did play a lot in my youth where they're on the PC or the PS2 and it's just okay. I can't remember PlayStation 1 I had some like army game where it was like, okay, you're in charge of a village, this and that. So I was digging all that. The second I switched over to like the actual on the foot combat, I kind of checked out. I was like, you know what? If this is an aspect of the game, maybe it's very fun, but it just didn't look like it went together. It's just like if you get a burrito and there's maybe one ingredient that you don't like or you're kind of on, and as much as you like everything in the burrito, that one thing might overpower it. So that kind of, I checked out at that point and I'm like, okay, it's something where if I want to play a game like this, there's other ones coming or in the past that I'd rather go to. But who knows? Maybe the people that love those original games, this can be a spiritual successor as long as he keeps it legally different. And, which
I am so curious to see what the situation is there. Legally,
so
if there'll be anything that comes up.
Yeah, so it was interesting. Just that portion was not. I just think it didn't jive. I feel like that belongs in a different type of game, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people love that. So
so I guess to break down the gameplay a little bit more, there's kind of two phases to the game. It appears where there is by day you are managing a little fantasy town, and you can really get in the weeds with it. Like as you said, you can go inside the restaurant and like literally make the sandwich, put the bread down, put the lettuce, put the tomato, put the ham, put the other slice of bread. You can go down all the way to that level of detail, which I think is really fun for a resource management game. For any of these kind of games where it's like, you can mix every little detail you want, or you can just like, I'm sure, never make a sandwich in this game and just have it automate this sandwich making feature. Cool. You can do whatever you want there. But I really like that they also showed like building weapons. You can do that like piece by piece, and you can do some really silly things with that as well, which looks really cool. And so that's what the town part is. They're really putting a highlight here as like, you're playing God. You can be good. You can be bad. You can, in a roller coaster tycoon kind of sick sort of way, pick up someone and throw them across the map and have them break their back on a building. Or you can be all, just benevolent, all good, treat everyone with the utmost respect, make the best town ever, and everyone is super happy. So you can kind of do whatever you want there. So that's the first part of the game. The second part of the game is when it's nighttime. And when it's nighttime, there's going to be monsters and other things trying to attack your city. So you're going to have to worry about your defenses. And you can also, as you mentioned, get all the way granular with it, go third-person mode on any of your units and control them like an action game. Or you can still be in that God mode where you're playing as like Master Hand, essentially. Yeah. And you can like shoot lasers and poison gas and fireballs at people with your magic God hand as well. So I agree with you. The third-person combat, it looked really janky. It looked a lot like any like Roller Coaster Tycoon or like the newer ones. Mm-hmm. You can like have that level of detail where you can like go third-person mode on any person at the park and just see like what they're doing today and just like have that fun immersive thing. And it looked like that quality where it's just like a kind of a janky looking camera that's following like too rigidly. Combat doesn't look that great. Like I feel like I'll spend most of my time as the God hand doing fun powers because that looked really fun. But the actual combat, with the characters looked a little janky. But once again, you can get like as granular as you want with it if you want to play as individual characters or just kind of do the broad strokes of it. They've also described this game as an open world game, and that's where I'm a little bit more confused. Like, are you going on expeditions? How does that work well with like the management? Because this doesn't really look like an RTS. Is it going to be like an RTS where you're building up armies and traveling across the land, exploring? So there's a lot of questions I have with this, and of course I have a lot of reservations just given the creator of it here. But visually, I loved it. I'm really excited for this potentially. Like I think this looks really interesting. Mm-hmm. This looks like my cup of tea in terms of a weird sandbox game that just knows it's goofy and silly and stupid, but potentially a lot of good like strategy and like good mechanics under the hood too. So yeah, I'm pretty intrigued by this one. It's definitely gone on that backlogged wish list, and I'm going to keep a close eye on it. I hope it comes out soon-ish, so we can find out more.
And was there even like a calendar date for it? Like
think so. Let me do a quick check. Release date. I don't think there's nothing yet. Just coming soon. The classic. Yeah. Maybe next year, but I kind of feel like seems like a 2026 sort of. It's kind of written all over it, but we shall see. It looked really solid. What we saw there. Next up is Mafia: The Old Country. Mm-hmm. Remind me, have you played the Mafia games? I think Kirkland maybe has dabbled. What's your history?
So I can't remember. I'd either dabbled in one or two. I think it's one of those games either it was rented or a friend had it and I played, really liked it, and then I bought 3 on the
360 era situation for
at least 3 was. 2 might have been, but 3 was the one I purchased, and I played that thing top to bottom because I'm a big fan of Godfather and Scarface and Sopranos, so it hits on that Italian beats of, it's a crime store, everything. Nothing, and it is like don't want to see like GTA clone, but it's like a GTA light where you can, go around, shoot someone, get a warrant. But I think what appealed to me was that it is taking place in that Frank Sinatra golden age sort of era, right? Where, liquor could be illegal and everything. Like, just in that, I can't remember. I'm sure there's like an actual term for... It's escaping me right now. I don't want to say revolutionary, but like there's some sort of era that encapsulates that time, and I really enjoy that time and looking at it. So, and I never got to 4 because I think 4 came out. I think it was announced early, like 2015, 2016, on the podcast. Me and Kirkland were hyped, and then I think it's usual came a time where a lot of stuff came out. But I also just heard it was like it was at least a step down from 3, and I think for
apparently this is the 4th game.
This is the 4th game?
Mixing up the numbers here.
Oh, then maybe it's 3 that I didn't play. Unless there's some spin-offs, maybe. Give me all the games here.
Let me try and find them.
Yeah, because maybe there's a spin-off, but then if it's that, it's 3. Because I think
I saw a thing that was like Mafia 4 has been kind of renamed to this one here. So we had first Mafia game in 2002, so older than I thought.
Okay.
Mafia 2 in 2010, Mafia 3 in 2016.
Okay, so it would have been Mafia 2. So I'm
and then
got
there was
my numbers
Mafia
wrong.
Definitive Edition that came out in 2020. So that was kind of like the modern.
So then I must have played a little bit of 1, and then when 2 came out, I was very excited. So this being Old Sicily, I think this is very exciting because they do now. It's interesting.
It's always been New York for that. Yes,
yes, and this going back, and it's funny because in Godfather 2, which like these games are very much based upon, there's a whole half the movie is in the first game, or in the first movie. There's Don Corleone, and he is like the big make me an offer I can't refuse, like that guy. I'm sure you've heard that quote. In the part 2, De Niro plays him, but you see him when he's like a teenager, and it's all the way back in old Italy and everything like that. So I feel like they're invoking those vibes. So I think this has made it that as long as it can review well, this will be more on my record of the other one. Because it sounded like 3 was just the same as 2, but a step down. It was also a weird choice that I don't think there's any different versions of the game. In Mafia 2, that character survives, and then in the third one, he just becomes like a side character that you talk to. And I think there's a lot of people like me and Kirkland are like, oh, that's cool, but we still probably we maybe would have liked to continue with that character and stuff. So this sounds like, and I feel like this is gonna be a prequel to all that or have nothing to do with those games. So I do think it is kind of maybe a discount Grand Theft Auto, but the reason you play it is for the soundtrack, for the look, the feel. It's supposed to be a Grand Theft Auto in the sense, but
and we get GTA so rarely that having a discount GTA, that's a whole market in and of itself. Now, obviously, of course, there is 6 on the horizon, but
which is odd because it kind of feels like it's sort of a. I felt like
it's even better for them that they have this time period and this setting because that will help them differentiate
100%.
Even though next GTA is not in New York, but I still think that'll help them kind of stand out from that.
Yeah. So the best comparison I would say, if Saints Row is GTA taking up the hallway notch,
zaniness,
Mafia is like the reverse. Like what happens if you stripped all that zaniness away from GTA and just kept it the criminal aspect. So I think with this setting, as long as it can come out a good time and it reviews well, I'll have my eyes on it because it's not the greatest of gameplay, but neither is GTA, right? Like GTA is not known for its like game mechanics as far as when you play the character. It's pretty basic,
Yeah, like the
point and
combat's always
shoot.
been pretty
Yeah,
bad, yeah.
right. Like how you run, it's always very blocky and stuff. So it's more about the aura. So I think it's
Gotcha.
exciting. But again, this was just a cinematic, and I don't think they even had like a date around there as far as that. But my eye will be watching it this time, and maybe this will make me look into getting like 3, because I'm sure now you can find it somewhere for $10-15.
Well, yeah, I know that recently some of these Mafia games, or at least one of them is on Game Pass. So there's a potential partnership there.
There you go.
Who knows if this one would go there as well? But yeah, it makes me extra curious to when I have subscribed to the Game Pass again. I think I'll definitely jump in and just see what I think about these games and decide if I want to get this new one. Because honestly, for me, that setting is a big deal. Where I'm just getting so bored of GTA and Fallout game after game just being set in like, all right, let's go on like the carousel of like what U.S. city we're gonna do this time. But I think going to Italy is like really, really fun. So I'm very intrigued by that, even though that's not really my type of movie. I haven't seen all those classics, and it's not usually what calls out to me. I just like the open worldness of it in that setting, in that city. And I do like crime stuff. So I don't know. I think that seems really intriguing. I'm going to definitely jump into some of those older games and see if they're my cup of tea. And just, I guess it also depends on the release date. Because honestly, even if it's differentiated from GTA, if it's close to GTA, I'm going that way and I'm not looking back. So I'm sure they'll be pretty smart and try and keep their distance from GTA. And maybe that's why they didn't drop an actual date here. Just wait and see what that game does first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And then the last thing on the list here is going to be Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. So it's finally got a release date in 2 waves. It is first coming out on PC and Xbox on December 9th of this year, and then in the spring is coming to PS5. So we got another trailer here. We also got on one of the Xbox showcases, they did a deep dive on some of the stuff, and I watched a little bit of that as well. But I got to start with that release date stuff because it's really, we've seen this kick off so far from Xbox of like, okay, we had those 4 games coming to PlayStation and some of them to Switch. What are we going to do here with the future? And I thought it was really interesting with this trailer that has the announcement, the date for the first time that they're announcing the PS5, when I would have thought 100% they wait till the game's out before they announce that sequel. Yeah. So it's not the sequel, before they announce that further release date for PS5. So that in itself is pretty crazy, and to me shows once again another huge shift in Xbox's strategy, which appears to just be like, they flip a dial every month. They spin the wheel like we do on Geek First and decide that's our strategy for this month or this quarter. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I know. Like as usual, I own an Xbox. I like having an Xbox. With Games Pass and just the way my household works, I'll probably buy another Xbox in the future when the next generations go and so forth. That even exists, right? If they are still making consoles and everything. But for me, it's just like it feels like it's Nintendo, but with Nintendo, it's like the Bizarro version, because Nintendo will make some weird decisions, but as of right now, since the Switch has happened, it's all working out for them, right? They're making the weird decisions, where this is just, whether it's stuff like, and this is what I just don't generally know, because I have to feel like it can't be him, because there's just stuff like, hey, the games that are coming right away are not Starfield, not Indiana Jones. Well, one of those games is Indiana Jones, and I'm going to say that Starfield's probably not too far behind then, if you're saying, like, I feel like maybe the DLC comes out, but I just don't know if is it Phil saying this stuff and then him and the team have a change of heart, or is it Phil saying this stuff and then someone goes and like, oh, we want you to do this, and he's like, well, I kind of already said this, and like, well, doesn't matter. And that's just why I can't wait in 20 years. So this is why, not that I don't want to not be hard on Phil, because he's still somebody that's a leader there, but it's just like, I just don't know, like, these decisions and the way they're going out, like, you can't tell me this man he's solely making these, because if he is, then I'm really questioning the idea of just even that. It's fine, okay, that's a new strategy, right? I had issues with it with Game Pass, the exclusivity. I felt like they kind of waved the white flag. Doesn't matter, like you said, why announce the date? You don't gotta do that. Sure, bring on PlayStation, whatever, but you can save that anytime. Save that for even like the Game Awards is gonna be, I think, after Indiana. Like,
I guess it'd be that same week.
Yeah. So like you could, like, maybe if it reviews well, which is funny because I feel like it sounds like lots of people got hands on. It sounds like it's like Outlaws, like 7. It sounds like,
but not blowing you away.
It sounds like a lot of them, like, if you love Indiana Jones, you'll love this. But I'm like, okay, what does that mean for the people that don't love Indiana Jones? Like, you kind of want to reach those people too. But so for me, it's like, even then, let's say it comes out and gangbusters, but maybe that's it. Maybe they don't think it's going to be. I don't know. That's what was very odd to me of for them to announce this even before the game's out. That's what I mean. I don't understand, and I can't see how one person would think this is a good idea because you can always make that announcement at any point. It's odd, and like I said, even if they, because like that's the other thing. Are they announcing this now so early? I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe there's some thought process that they feel it's not going to be Redfall, but it's something like maybe they felt, okay, this isn't going to be as big as we thought it's going to be. Let's build that hype. But it's not going to matter because there's still enough time that PlayStation users could hear, oh, it's not that good of a game. I don't need it. If it was day and date, then to me it makes sense of, hey, we're launching it on December and we're also going to launch on PlayStation same day. Then it's like, well, yeah, get those buys before word spreads that it's just like an okay game. But now it's like, you put the date out there so people can really wait, and if it's an okay game, word will spread and they'll wait till it's like $20. I just don't know what I don't see other than, okay, yes, putting your games on other consoles, you're going to sell them, the rollout of it, the being sneaky about it, but then going back on your word, being like, hey, it's not going to be Indiana Jones in the first wave, but now it is. I just really don't know. So I really think now, I think Phil over the years has done things like, oh, he's sometimes been very open, maybe too open. I think he needs to stop. I think he just needs to talk about what's in front of him. And even if it's a company, they need to stop telling them, hey, talk about this and this, because if you don't know the strategy right now, don't be saying this type of stuff. And yeah, it's and that's the other thing too. It's not even that far of a release date, like a year. Then I could see some people, if they really love Indiana Jones, okay, I'm gonna wait, or I'll go and buy that console if this is the game you have to play, right? But it's spring, like December, and even December is is an odd date for me too. It's just like you're missing Black Friday sales or anything like that. I feel like December, unless you're a very hot title, there's lots of other games that are on sale that could be being bought at the time. Everything about this was just very odd, and even the game I'm excited for, but I still continue, like, I want to see. I did not like the trailer. I'm very happy that Troy Baker gets to play Indiana Jones, but the whole trailer just being like, oh, I was a kid and now it was good to put on the hat.
Yeah,
it's
I like that he had fooled me before and I didn't immediately clock it as him.
Yes.
But now it's like just front and center. Like I was like, you did such good acting. You didn't need to convince me, I guess. So
yeah, and like I get he is playing Indy, but I just feel like they're hamming up a little too much. Like Harrison Ford is like giving him the hat. It's like, you're not even wearing the hat in these videos, like, I don't know. It's just, so for me it was an odd rollout in December. Yeah, everything's odd about this. I'm still excited because I do love Indiana Jones, so I'm excited to play it, and I think that they were trying their best to sell why it's first person, because I think there's still a very big divide between people that go, why isn't this third person? You're missing the boat. I'm someone that's willing to give it a chance, but yeah, it's very just an interesting situation over there at Xbox, and what their choices are and when they're making those choices. So
you said a lot there that I just rifled off a bunch of notes, and I'll try to get to all of them because you said a lot of interesting stuff. So yeah, of course it's a pivot. It's a change in strategy. I want to talk about like why that is. So when this first was announced earlier this year that Xbox is going to be rolling out these 4 games onto other platforms, of course at the time they said, yeah, we're just doing these 4. Who knows about other stuff in the future? And like the big quote that I feel like it's getting tossed around is that in that people interviews, whatever it was, people were like, is Indy going to be one of these games in the future? And he said it's not going to be Indy, and it's not going to be, I forget what the other game was, some other
I think it was
game.
Starfield. I thought it was Starfield. He said that was the 2 that he said.
Yeah, I guess so, because Starfield had already released, but like it wasn't going to come down the road.
And it was still newer at the time.
Yeah. So, benefit of the doubt is that at the time that was not the plan, and now it is the plan.
Of course, yeah.
When he said that was also before those 4 games had released. And from what we've seen, it seems like those sales have been not like outstanding on those games, other than maybe Sea of Thieves is doing.
That's what
really
I've heard
well
of Sea of Thieves
on the other consoles. So
good,
maybe they
good success story for that game after all these years.
So maybe that's just what it's based on. Is like when he said that quote, they didn't have the numbers in front of them. Now they can look at a piece of paper and say, this is how much more money we made by porting this game versus how much it costs to get it running on a PS5, and that just makes a lot of sense. Now, of course, it's interesting that I guess this is like the 6th game in that lineage, because we also know that Doom, the Dark Ages, is coming to PS5 as well. I don't think we have a release date on that one yet. So that is another one that we know is happening. So that's also kind of an interesting thing there. I wonder if part of this is like this is maybe another. I want to say like another bit of a test for them because like okay they did those things where it's like oh here's some older games, not too old but older games that had they're at least a year old that are coming to other platforms and now they're going to be doing it like just a few months after and they're going to be announcing it beforehand so maybe they want to see how that affects numbers. I guess Doom will be the same case as well, but I think it's going to just like it's just going to start flowing. I feel like these games are going to start blasting out onto PS5 rather than them being pretty coy with it.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing
I
too,
wonder
that
when we get
found-
that first like same day one. That's going to be a big one if that ever happens. Of the coming out PlayStation, Xbox.
I can't imagine
same
that's
day.
anytime soon. But there's just been so much change so quickly that who knows? It could happen sooner than we think.
I
I
think
think
next
if there
2
is something
years.
that's going to happen, it would be a really multiplayer centric game that they just want a lot of players on, like something that would be cross play. I'm trying to think of what that would be, but that was another thing when they first announced those 4 games was that it's like they said it's going to be community based games. Those are the ones that were coming. So that makes sense for Sea of Thieves. It makes sense for Grounded. For Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment, it doesn't really make any sense at all. Those aren't really community-based games. Those are single-player games only. So obviously that is kind of just whatever when he said that anyway in the first place. But these, Doom, I guess Doom Eternal had a multiplayer mode, but like, okay, we're Doom Dark Ages, that's a single-player game. This is going to be a single-player game as well. So that's also maybe a bit of a change as well. So I don't even know what the point I'm trying to make here is, just that like, yeah, I don't really trust anything he says anymore. Like I've been like that way at least through this year, just because of how much the messaging has changed. But I just can't. I don't really have any reason to trust a single word out of at least Phil Spencer's mouth right now, and likely these other execs that they keep trying to put in front of us.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think that's just the right approach to have. It's just whatever, go with the announcement at the time, and that's their plan until it changes otherwise. I do think and maybe it is a multiplayer game, I think within the next 2 years that you are going to get a same day release date between the two. And I think for a single player one, if it doesn't happen within the 2 years, because we don't know when it happens, I got my eyes on Blade, because I feel like Blade might be the one they might do it with both consoles and just say, it's a bigger IP, bigger title. Maybe there'll hopefully be a movie around that time. I could see Blade being one of those games like, you know what, let's test it out here and see. Because I think it's like we've known this for a while, but I don't think they're officially not in like the console business. They are a different model. And I feel like, well, if you're trying to push games, that is a good one to potentially start with if it's a good game. But I think next 2 years we're gonna get one of these games getting the same date, and it's gonna be interesting. So
yeah. And I mean, in terms of my perspective on it or my opinion, it's the same as when I had those conversations with you and Taylor months ago. Is I think it's amazing that these games are going to be coming to more platforms, can be played by more people. So it's all good with me. And as someone who only owns an Xbox right now and doesn't own a PlayStation, does not bother me one bit.
Yeah.
Because I am not a fanboy, so I don't care. Works for me. Cool. I'll play it on Xbox, on Game Pass, and PlayStation owners, you're going to be spending $70, $80, whatever it is, but you can also play it too. Right on. Works for me. So that's cool. I also wonder how long it would be before we see one of these Xbox games join like the PlayStation Plus lineup. That'll be an interesting thing. How long do you think that'll take? Do you have what would your prediction? 2 years, 3 years, never?
I would say never.
Within the next 3 years, maybe, right?
Yeah, I'd say 3 to 4. It's tough because I think Sony,
like Sea of Thieves or something would be.
Something like that. But yeah, 3 to 4. But I just say because they're a little less sherry, Sony, and that seems to really tick Phil off when that happens. Yeah. But it's coming. So
yeah, and then in terms of the release date, I mean, just a very personal bias is that usually like December 9th, 10th is when I'm looking to start making my game of the year list and start planning and recording that episode. And now we're throwing this wrench in there. Now, I don't think this game will be very long, so I'm guessing I'll play through it over the course of a week, and then maybe I'll do game of the year stuff, assuming this game is even good enough to make it relevant for that, that final list. I hope it is. But I like the release date. Normally there's not a lot of things releasing in December, and I loved having Midnight Suns to just play through in December because nothing else was coming out, and I could just spend my life doing that. And so I think it's cool. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Like they did delay Avowed recently, which I don't think we've mentioned on Sidequest. I'm salty about that because that's another point for me out the drain, of course. Happy for you getting Indy squeaking in there by the skin of your teeth.
Skin of my teeth,
But even with that, in September, the Starfield expansion is coming out, as well as Age of Mythology. October, I think, is when Call of Duty comes out. November is when Stalker 2 comes out. I'm missing a few. Like, there's a bunch of things that they have coming out. And so I just feel like it also kind of makes a lot of sense for the Xbox specific calendar, that there isn't really any competition in December. Even like from like PlayStation or Nintendo, we don't really know much. I don't think any releases for December. So it's just kind of an empty pocket for them. So it might work out nicely. I think it fits their calendar well. And then I think maybe my last point, just on the actual gameplay from the trailer, is it's like a little thing, but I really liked it. And I think one of the things I've been seeing is that, like, okay, this is not a first-person shooter. Of course, it is a first-person game where you can shoot a gun, but this is not going to be the same as Wolfenstein. It's not going to be the same as Machine Games, previous games, where you're just gunning down 100 enemies, because that would not make sense for who Indy is as a character. Of course, there's a lot of puzzles in this game. It's a lot about exploring and that sort of thing. And one thing I really liked here, it's subtle, is that they highlighted the journal, which looked very much like you would have in Uncharted, which of course that all comes back to Indy in the first place. But having your journal there, which has like all this information about these temples that you're going to, all this lore, and it just seems like there's a lot in there that you can learn that isn't even necessarily to solve a puzzle, but there's just a lot of like fun lore in there mixed in between the puzzles, and I think that'll be really fun. And then you mentioned too how like one of the other most important things for Indy is your camera, which of course for a lot of games is just like, every game is a camera mode now. But I think for this, it's like you took a picture of a statue and got like exploration points. So you're getting like you're leveling up from taking pictures of interesting things in these temples. And I really like that. I just think that part of it, of like Indiana Jones is an archaeologist and not just a killer, going through these temples. I think that angle is really fun, and I love that they're exploring that side of his character and doing it through gameplay. And for me, that's totally fine. I don't need a game that has me shooting down tons of enemies. Like, I'm totally down to have these more slower moments where I'm just existing in these really cool places. So I that's what I really liked about this trailer, is kind of highlighting these other elements of the character and the gameplay, just to have that. I just feel like there's going to be a lot of variety in this game. The cutscenes, combat, puzzle solving, exploring, just screwing around, doing bonus stuff. I just feel like there's going to be a lot to do, and I'm excited about that balance of it. So, yeah, any other thoughts on the Great Circle here?
No, like you said, I think there could be a good balance. Hopefully, all that things bring a fresh, unique game, and not just kind of like it has a little bit of everything, but it doesn't do anything great. That's what I'm always worried about, is I don't want it to be just a little bit better than like a movie tie-in game, which I don't think it will be with the people, right? But that's just sometimes when I see it, I go, okay, well, this could go a few ways. And I think if it gets like those kind of 7s, and that's where we are, it's like, I want to play this game and have a memorable experience. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, there was an Indiana Jones game that came out, and that's kind of it. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm excited for it, and this is fun. I feel like we had some really good conversations with some of these games I wasn't even expecting to get into. It kind of worked out. This episode's a lot longer than I was expecting, which is always fun. So once again, next week is Star Wars Outlaws. You may or may not get a bonus Nintendo Direct 2-for-1 bonus episode, but thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.